Hello and welcome to the 9th video in our series on reading skills. This video is connected to the assignment given in last class. What we're going to look at is how to read an article. Okay, the first step on the assignment is to skim and scan. This is a basic skill for reading that everyone should use. Skimming and scanning mean to look very quickly and get the general idea or the gist of what the article is about. We do this by looking at the pictures, looking at the title, the supertitle, words above the title, and the subtitle, any words underneath the title. Next, we look at the first 2 or 3 paragraphs. We don't read every word. At this point, we're just looking for things like the repeating words or anything interesting that catches your eye. Read quickly and just get a general idea of what the topic is about and maybe what the writer wants to tell us about that topic. You need to stop after this and try to predict. Think about those 2 questions. What is the topic and what does the writer want to tell me about the topic? And then try to think about what kind of information the writer is going to tell us in the rest of the article. Doing that will help you quickly understand what the article is about. The final part of skimming and scanning will be to just quickly read through the rest of the article. Look at the section titles. Just look for any particular interesting dates, names, or other information that you think might be interesting. Again, don't read everything. You're only going to look for the main ideas, the first sentence perhaps in each paragraph. And when you've done that, you've quickly looked through the whole article, stop again and think about what is this article about and what does the writer want to tell me. And that is the first stage of reading an article. The second stage of reading an article is intensive reading. We do this when we decide that the article is interesting enough to read. Some articles we might decide we don't want to read, so skimming and scanning saves us a lot of time. We can decide quickly, I want to read that or I don't want to read it. When we decide we want to read something, then we do what is called intensive reading and we read closely. We go back and look for an idea about the topic. Next, we read each section of the article and try to find the main idea in each of those sections. And that's going to be usually in the first sentence. Then we think about a question that section will answer. And finally, we try to answer that question. That sounds complicated. So, on assignment 9, I've given you a graphic organizer to help you work through the process of intensive reading. This should help you understand the process of how we read closely. And again, if you follow this process, it will save you a lot of time. The final step in reading an article for the purpose of a discussion is to stop and ask yourself the same questions. For example, in the second section of the National Geographic article, the question is, how did they minimize trash and make better choices? and you would have written a list of ways that person minimized their trash and how that helped them to make better choices. When you have finished reading, you can do the same thing and ask yourself, how do I minimize trash and make better choices? Can I do that? Is it possible? What things could I do? When you prepare for a discussion in this way, after reading, think about how what you read is connected to your own life. That way, when you go into a discussion, you are not talking about the same thing. You are talking about your life and what's important to you. And whatever is important to you is going to be interesting. You don't actually need to talk in detail about the article. So this way of preparing for a discussion is very effective, and it takes a little time, but once you get used to the routine, you'll find it much easier to answer questions about yourself. That's all for this video. In the next few weeks until the end of the course, we will be looking at this process of reading articles in each class, and we'll try to practice it a number of times. All the skills that we've covered so far in this course are included in this one activity of skimming, scanning, and then intensive reading. Good luck, and see you next class.